How many submarine movies have fooled you with loud explosions, fake heroics, and tactics no real captain would survive? The truth is, most underwater war films are built for spectacle, not realism. But a rare few understood the terrifying science of silence, sonar pings, depth charge patterns, pressure hulls, and orders whispered like last prayers. These 12 films did not just show submarine warfare. They trapped you inside it, where one sound could become a death sentence. Below, 2002. The scariest enemy in this submarine story is not always above the water. Sometimes, it is already locked inside the hull. Below, from 2002, takes the familiar World War II submarine thriller and twists it into something tighter, darker, and more psychological. Set aboard an American submarine after a dangerous rescue mission, the film understands one brutal truth about underwater warfare. Fear does not need much space to spread. Every corridor feels too narrow. Every sound feels suspicious. Every order carries the weight of men who know they cannot simply run if things go wrong. What makes Below work for this list is not just the combat, but the atmosphere of silent survival. The crew must navigate enemy destroyers, depth charge danger, mechanical pressure, and the slow breakdown of trust beneath the surface. The tactical tension comes from restraint. Nobody can panic loudly. Nobody can make careless noise. The ocean becomes a listening machine, and the submarine becomes a coffin with engines. Some viewers remember it as a ghostly war thriller, but beneath the supernatural mood is a very sharp submarine movie about stress, secrecy, and command under pressure. Its punch is simple. Underwater, the battle outside is terrifying, but the battle inside the crew may be worse. The Bedford Incident, 1965. One aggressive captain, one nervous Cold War standoff, and one sonar contact that could start the end of the world. The Bedford Incident, from 1965, is not a traditional submarine movie in the usual sense, because much of the action takes place aboard an American destroyer. But that is exactly what makes it so valuable. It shows submarine warfare from the hunter's side, where patience, discipline, and interpretation matter more than explosions. The story follows a U.S. naval vessel tracking a Soviet submarine in icy waters, and the tension builds not from battle scenes, but from decision-making. Is the contact hostile? Is the commander pushing too far? At what point does pursuit become provocation? That is the terrifying realism of the film. Sonar is not treated like magic. It is treated like uncertain information, filtered through tired men, political pressure, and dangerous pride. The Cold War setting gives every order a nuclear shadow, because one mistake at sea could become a global disaster. What makes the Bedford Incident so gripping is its refusal to make tactics look clean or heroic. It shows that the most dangerous weapon on a warship may not be a missile. It may be a commander who refuses to back down. Crimson Tide, 1995. A submarine does not need to fire a missile to become one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Crimson Tide, from 1995, turns a ballistic missile submarine into a floating pressure chamber of authority, fear, and moral conflict. The tactical realism here is not only about torpedoes or sonar, it is about command structure. A nuclear submarine runs on procedure, discipline, authentication, and trust. When communication is damaged and a launch order becomes unclear, the film asks the nightmare question: who has the right to decide the fate of millions? That is where Crimson Tide becomes more than a thriller. It captures the suffocating logic of submarine command, where officers cannot simply go with their gut without consequences. Gene Hackman's captain represents hardline certainty. Denzel Washington's executive officer represents restraint under impossible pressure. Between them is a crew trapped underwater, hunted from outside and divided from within. Yes, the film uses Hollywood intensity, but its emotional engine is brutally believable. Nuclear warfare depends on human beings interpreting rules while fear is closing in. The result is tense, loud, and sharply controlled. Its mini-conclusion is unforgettable. The most terrifying battle in submarine K-19, the Widowmaker, 2002. This is not a submarine movie about hunting the enemy. It is about surviving your own machine. K-19. The Widowmaker, from 2002, pulls its tension from one of the most frightening realities of Cold War naval power. A nuclear submarine could be as dangerous to its own crew as it was to any rival nation. Based on the real crisis aboard the Soviet submarine K-19 in 1961, the film follows a crew trapped under political pressure, technical failure, and the horrifying possibility of a reactor catastrophe. What makes it powerful is the way it treats command decisions as tactical warfare. Every choice matters. Surface or stay hidden. Admit failure or preserve national pride. Send men into deadly radiation or risk a disaster that could trigger a wider conflict. The submarine becomes a steel prison where patriotism, fear, and survival collide. The film also understands the brutal hierarchy of naval life. Orders are obeyed, even when everyone can see the cost. Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson give the story a harsh command room tension, but the real star is the atmosphere of containment. No one can escape the heat, the radiation, or the politics. Its punch is simple and grim. Sometimes the most realistic submarine battle is not against another vessel. It is against bad design, secrecy, and the clock. We Dive at Dawn, 1943. Before submarine movies became glossy Cold War thrillers, this British wartime film understood the dirty mathematics of survival. We Dive at Dawn, from 1943, is a lean, tense Royal Navy submarine story built around a mission that feels practical, dangerous, and constantly limited by resources. The crew is sent to hunt a German battleship, but the film's realism comes from the problems around the mission, not just the target. Fuel becomes a tactical issue. Distance becomes a threat. Mechanical endurance matters. Even the return journey carries its own suspense because a submarine is not a superhero machine. It is a fragile weapon operating inside strict physical limits. That is what gives the film its bite. The crew must think like sailors, not action heroes. They calculate, conserve, listen, wait, and gamble only when necessary. The tension comes from whether they can complete the job and still get home. Made during the war itself, the film carries a raw immediacy that later productions sometimes lack. It does not romanticize submarine service as clean adventure. It shows exhaustion, cramped conditions, and the mental strain of men moving through hostile waters with very little margin for error. Its mini-conclusion is sharp. Real submarine courage is not loud. It is measured in fuel, silence, discipline, and the nerve to dive anyway. Destination Tokyo, 1943. This film turns a submarine mission into a secret knife slipped under the enemy's door. Destination Tokyo, from 1943, follows an American submarine crew sent deep into Japanese-controlled waters during World War II, and what makes it stand out is how carefully it builds the feeling of a long, dangerous patrol. The film is patriotic, yes, but beneath that wartime spirit is a surprisingly grounded look at submarine routine. The crew does not simply charge forward. They move quietly, gather intelligence, manage emergencies, and understand that stealth is their greatest weapon. One of its most remembered details is the emergency appendectomy performed aboard the submarine, a moment that shows how isolated these crews really were. There is no hospital nearby, no easy rescue, no quick escape from responsibility. Every man's skill matters because the boat is its own world. The tactical side comes through in the mission structure, slipping past defenses, staying hidden, making calculations, and surviving close calls without turning every moment into spectacle. Cary Grant brings calm authority, but the film's real strength is its respect for procedure and teamwork. It helped shape how later submarine films portrayed patrol life, danger, and command. Its punchy truth is this: sometimes the most impressive submarine tactic is not firing first. It is reaching the target unseen and coming back alive. The Hunt for Red October, 1990.
40 years, your fathers before you and your older brothers played this game and played it.
A silent submarine can be more dangerous than an army, especially when no one knows whose side it is really on. The Hunt for Red October from 1990 remains one of the most gripping Cold War submarine thrillers because it turns underwater tactics into a game of trust, deception, and interpretation. The story follows a Soviet commander, Captain Marko Ramius, as he takes a revolutionary submarine toward American waters, while both superpowers race to understand whether he is defecting, attacking, or setting a trap. What gives the film its tactical power is its obsession with detection. Sonar tracking, silent running, acoustic signatures, and command room analysis drive the suspense. The ocean becomes a dark chessboard where every vessel is both hunter and prey. Sean Connery gives Ramius calm menace, while the American analysts and captains must decide whether to believe the impossible before it is too late. The film also captures Cold War paranoia beautifully. Even correct information can look like a threat when politics and fear distort it. The submarine technology may be dramatized, but the logic of pursuit, evasion, and underwater identification feels deeply convincing. Its punch is clear. This is not a movie about who fires the biggest weapon. It is about who understands the silence first. Run Silent, Run Deep, 1958. Some submarine battles are not won by speed or firepower. They are won by obsession sharpened into strategy. Run Silent, Run Deep from 1958 is one of the great tactical submarine dramas because it treats underwater combat like a deadly mental duel. Clark Gable plays Commander Richardson, a captain haunted by a previous defeat, while Burt Lancaster plays the executive officer forced to balance loyalty, discipline, and doubt. The film's real power comes from its focus on stalking, patience, and silent movement through enemy waters. This is not a movie where submarines behave like action machines. They wait, they listen, they calculate angles, they study destroyer patterns, they dive at the right second, and hold their nerve while depth charges hammer the sea above them. The title itself captures the core tactic: stay quiet, stay hidden, and strike only when the enemy believes you are already dead. What makes the film feel convincing is the psychological pressure inside the boat. Richardson's personal vendetta risks becoming a tactical weakness, and that tension gives the story its human danger. A submarine commander cannot afford ego, because ego makes noise, and noise gets men killed. The combat scenes are old school but sharp, built around timing, deception, and nerve rather than spectacle. Its punch is brutal and memorable. In submarine warfare, revenge may point you toward the enemy, but only discipline gets you home. The Enemy Below, 1957. This is submarine warfare as a chess match, where both captains are smart enough to kill each other and tired enough to understand each other. The Enemy Below, from 1957, earns its place because it does something many war films avoid. It respects both sides of the hunt. The story follows an American destroyer captain tracking a German U-boat commander across the Atlantic, turning the ocean into a battlefield of calculation, patience, and psychological pressure. The tactical realism comes from the duel itself. The destroyer must predict where the submarine will move. The U-boat must use depth, silence, decoys, and timing to survive. Each captain studies the other through fragments: sonar contact, movement patterns, evasive turns, and instinct shaped by experience. The film understands that anti-submarine warfare is not just about dropping depth charges until something explodes. It is about forcing the enemy into a mistake. Robert Mitchum brings calm intelligence to the destroyer captain, while Kurt Jürgens gives the U-boat commander dignity and professional skill. That balance makes the film more gripping, because the enemy is not foolish. He is dangerous because he is competent. The tension builds from mutual respect, not cartoon villainy. Every move feels like a question. Has he guessed my plan, or am I walking into his? Its mini-conclusion is powerful. The best submarine war movies do not just show machines fighting, they show minds hunting in the dark.
Das Boot, 1981. Silence feel this close to death. Das Boot, from 1981, is often treated as the gold standard for a reason. It does not make submarine warfare look glamorous. It makes it look exhausting, filthy, cramped, and psychologically punishing. Set aboard a German U-boat during World War II, the film captures the unbearable rhythm of patrol life. Long stretches of boredom, sudden terror, mechanical strain, and men slowly realizing that the ocean does not care who survives. Its tactical strength comes from how seriously it treats depth, sound, and pressure. When the crew goes silent, the silence is not dramatic decoration, it is survival. When depth charges explode above them, the fear is not just noise, it is math, metal fatigue, leaking pipes, and the terrifying question of whether the hull can take one more hit. The film's famous cramped interior makes every order feel immediate. There is nowhere to hide from command decisions, panic, sweat, or failure. The captain is not a superhero. He is a professional trying to keep men alive inside a machine built to disappear. That realism gives Das Boot its almost documentary force. It shows courage without romance and fear without melodrama. Its final judgment is simple. This is not just a submarine movie, it is the closest cinema has come to locking viewers inside a U-boat and making them breathe the same fear. The Cruel Sea, 1953.
I was the only professional seaman among them. The rest were amateurs.
It shows the terrible cost of hunting them. The Cruel Sea stands at number 1 because it understands anti-submarine warfare as duty without glamour. The film follows British convoy escorts during the Battle of the Atlantic, where war is not a clean contest of heroes and villains, but a grinding struggle against weather, exhaustion, invisible U-boats, and impossible choices. Its realism comes from the way it treats the ocean itself as an enemy. Ships roll through brutal seas. Men work while soaked, tired, and afraid. Sonar contacts appear and disappear. Depth charges are not exciting fireworks. They are desperate guesses against something hidden beneath the waves. The film shows the awful burden of commanders who must choose between saving survivors in the water and attacking a submarine that may kill an entire convoy. That moral pressure is what makes it unforgettable. Jack Hawkins gives the story a hard, restrained center, showing leadership as endurance rather than performance. Unlike more polished war adventures, The Cruel Sea feels bruised by experience. It is about men learning that survival often comes with guilt attached. The tactics are grounded in convoy protection, sonar hunting, escort discipline, and the brutal uncertainty of fighting an enemy you may never clearly see. Its punch is cold and perfect. Submarine warfare was not always about daring attacks. Sometimes it was about making the least terrible decision before the sea swallowed everyone. So which of these films truly got submarine warfare closest to reality? And which one fooled us with Hollywood pressure? That is the debate that never really ends. Because under the ocean, tactics are not loud. They are silent, patient, and terrifying. One ping, one mistake, one wrong order, and the greatest war machine becomes a tomb.